I'm Troy Kirby with the Journal of Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater with a quick look at the 2021 Washington State legislative session. Substitute Senate Bill 5273, sponsored by Senator Jesse Solomon, concerning shoreline armoring, was heard on the Senate floor.
I unfortunately rise in opposition to this bill this morning because fundamentally it is a good idea. We all, regardless of politics, care about environment in the state of Washington. We care about salmon in the state of Washington. It's really a part of our culture. But Mr. President, other things are part of our culture, like collaboration, listening to people around the state, balance as we approach policy within our state. And this is where this bill falls short.
Legislation is only about when a armoring needs to be replaced. No state agency or nonprofit group is going to go out and attempt or require people to replace their armoring or their bulkheads with least intrusive stuff. This is only in an instance where something has to be replaced. So if there's hard armoring that's currently working, it's going to stay in place and continue to work.
And it's easy to imagine that all of these homes are rich people living on waterfront property, but that's not really the case. Many of these homes are modest homes, and it's important that we preserve the habitats, if you will, of the people who live in them too.
When I was a little girl growing up on Fidalgo Island, I remember my grandfather going smelt fishing. Used to be a big derby that they did every year where they'd go out and get all those forage feeder fish. And that started to wane over time. And part of that is because of the way that we've dealt with the armoring on our shoreline communities. So this is not just about salmon. This is about the little guys. It's about the whole web that we're trying to support in our ecosystems.
We've talked a lot already about making it easier for landowners to meet the requirements under this proposed bill. This amendment simply says take the cost into account when we're looking at the feasibility of a project.
I've been in the commercial fishery industry for over 50 years. And I worked on habitat projects most all those years, and really this bill doesn't really protect habitat unless it's strictly beach spawners, salmon beach spawners.
It doesn't make sense, this amendment, because depending on the design or the location of the materials, there's other characteristics of the replacement project that may have less impact on existing hard armoring, which is the purpose of the legislation, to find alternatives for bank protection while having less harmful impact to fish.
Is actually in my wheelhouse, what I do on a professional basis, and I've been involved with some of the replacement for some of this armoring along the shorelines and some other methods, both natural and using vegetation and using other sources to put it more into a more natural shoreline protection and removing this, what we would describe as hard armoring. But in some cases, all this amendment simply does, and I'm hoping Senator Solomon will go along with it, it's pretty simple. It just says Fish and Wildlife should say, you know what, if we leave this existing hard armoring in place, that the replacement would actually have more of an impact.
We actually know, and we have heard from scientists themselves, that sometimes the challenge of removing structures and replacing the things, with the next generation of things that allow habitat to grow and our aquatics to survive, is that there is that period of time where the impact can be quite substantial, because if you think about removing that hard armoring, you are disturbing that ground, you are disturbing that sediment.
The landowner's engineer's assessment will be given, I think, proper weight by the Department of Fish and Wildlife engineers when they review project alternatives. But to put in a statute a requirement that the agency can't even question the engineering results or analyzation from an engineer that's been hired by the landowner is not a recipe for good policy.
SSB 5273 passed the Senate 28-21, moving on to the House for consideration. Thank you for watching the Daily Legislative Report by the Journal of Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater, covering the 2021 legislative session.